Yeah. Prior questions?
These are what came before in the form and live on the chat it's coming.
So it started now.
You can intro and start. Yeah.
Okay, good evening everyone. We are very happy that you could join us this evening. This is our, I am Prathap and one of the coordinators for NPTEL, and Professor Niket is the other coordinator. Good evening everyone. We are very happy that you could join us this evening. We will be taking your questions, and as your questions come in fact, there are already, I think, several questions here, and we will start addressing them. This is the first time we are doing a live session of this nature. I mean, many live sessions are there for each of those individual courses. This is the first time we thought we should have one with all these POCs and the coordinators participating. Partly the reason is, I mean, the operations have grown very significantly in the past 4 years or so that we have been doing these NPTEL courses. And also, I mean, with our emphasis on quality and with different processes being introduced, our cutoffs changing, the way we do the evaluation changing, and so on. Naturally, there are concerns that some of the SPOCs have raised. We are trying to answer these concerns even in the WhatsApp groups, but since some of those concerns are common, we thought this is a good idea to actually have an open discussion so that we can address these concerns. So Niket will also say something, and then we can start answering your question.
Yeah. So I think one of the reasons for having this session is the changes that we have been making over the last few years. Several of them have been incremental but significant improvements. The change from in this particular semester could possibly be a change that has caused a lot of queries that have come to us. A lot of you as well as a lot of students have asked those queries, and so that's why we thought that it would be good to address those questions directly through a live session. Okay, so that's the idea behind this. So
yeah. So, I mean, as you are aware, see the whole, I think one of the fundamental themes in the NPTEL process is that we want to ensure that quality is maintained, that we are not simply offering some course and then trying to find out how many people can pass and then give some numbers out. So that is never really been our focus. We want a good quality course to be out there. We want good quality evaluation to happen. We want students to experience that process in a nice way, and then also that students should get that satisfaction that they went through an examination that was of good quality, of good rigor, well thought out exam that they clear, and then when they get a certificate they get a lot of satisfaction and also a lot of confidence. So that is the important combination that we want to ensure that a student gets. Because otherwise there are a lot of certificates potentially that people can get. We focus on this quality and confidence that quality brings. So it is in that context that we have made some changes, and also number of courses has gone up. We have 370 courses running. That number will also go up. So naturally, across 370 faculty offering different courses, different assignments, and different exams. There is going to be some variation in the experience that the student has, and so some of the questions and concerns that many SPOCs have raised is actually from that. So we will try to address that also. So I think one fundamental point that I will make, which we can probably revisit as we go along, is that in addition to this course experience that I mentioned and this quality and confidence and so on, at the end of the day we want to prepare our students for some real life situations. So we have to move to do that. We have to move away from the high school mindset and get into a semi-professional to professional mindset. So I think that is a very important distinction we have to make. It is not going to be an abrupt change, but at least the thought process should be there. In their mind, they should understand that, look, we are no longer in school. We have come to college, and now from college we are going to go to a job, maybe some professional setting. Maybe you are going to become a teacher somewhere. So a lot of different things people are going to do. So once the student accepts this idea that we are not in high school but in a semi-professional setting, moving towards a professional setting, he or she should open up to wider range of experiences in a course. I think we should stop thinking that there is only some specific portions that have to be asked, and then that specific portion should be asked only in one way. If you ask MCQ, you should only ask MCQ, multiple choice questions. If you ask multiple choice question in the assignment, you should not ask multiple select questions in the examination. You should not ask essay type question in examination. I think those things will, you have to slowly move the students away from that thought process. And as SPOCs and mentors, I think you play a very important role in assisting your students to move away from that. I agree that when you run a course, it is good to tell the students ahead of time how the examination will be conducted, and we are also asking our faculty to do that, so that the student can decide ahead of time whether this is what they want to do, or this is something that they are not comfortable doing. That part I agree. We don't want to like completely surprise the student with an examination that is very different from anything that was done during that course. So that's not the idea here. We are not trying to spring a big surprise for the student, but some level of flexibility will be there in the examination process. And that's something that the student should also mentally feel prepared when they come for the examination. They should not say that I mean, in the sense, it is not very useful if the student says that I saw a certain type of question in the assignment, and exactly the same type of question only I will answer. I cannot answer anything other than that. Because I mean, the reason I'm saying that is, if they go for a job interview, you cannot, in a job interview, you cannot go and tell the interview panel in front of you, ask only multiple choice questions or ask only multiple select questions. Give me only fill in the blanks. You cannot, in fact, in an interview, you cannot even say what portions. They may ask you something about the native place you're staying in, something about the geography of the native place you're staying in. Then they will ask you about the subject that you're doing, and so on. So they may ask you a wide range of different things. And that comfort level should first come. That is where you tend to become successful. That basic comfort level should come, that yes, few different people will ask me few different questions. I should be able to answer them. In the technical questions also, they may ask it differently from how I saw it in my subject, how I saw it in my textbook, and I should still be able to answer it. I should be able to unpack the question. They may put it in some way. I should be able to unpack the question and then say, okay, so the question is like this. This is really what they want to know, although they have added a lot of different things in the question. This is the main point they want to know, and I should be able to answer that. So in many of our courses, we are also getting the student to experience that. So in a question, you should be able to understand what is it, the specific point that they are trying to ask in the question, and what is it that is just there to fill up the place. And we do that even from high school days. No, in high school days also, when a math question is asked, they'll say they'll give the name of one person. Say Ram Prasad went to buy oranges. I mean, the fact that his name is Ram Prasad is irrelevant for us from the mathematics perspective. So, but they have still given you that detail. If they say his mother sent him, his father sent him, then one story is written there. You still understand that the rest of the story is irrelevant. You want to know price of oranges times the number of oranges is the total money you have to take. So that kind of thing is already anyway there in our system. So when we come to NPTEL courses, let's not go a step backward and say, no, only MCQ we will take, only MSQ and all that. So, so I would request you to work with your students to encourage them to think along these lines. I do understand the constraint that some of you have expressed in many of the SPOC WhatsApp groups, that students are from rural background and sometimes they are not comfortable with English, and therefore if you suddenly ask them to write a paragraph, they may have some difficulty. I do understand that, but we have to work with them to somehow get past that point, and so that their experience also grows. I mean, they're going to feel very restricted if that is how it is. Maybe you can ask them to take an English course first before they start taking up these courses, if you feel that will assist them. And maybe that will work. I mean, if they take a basic English course through NPTEL or maybe some other place, so that this level of fear is not there, saying that, if they ask me something in paragraph mode, I'm finished. I can't answer this question. So I think that is an important point. So I think that's like, I would say, the main point I wanted to share with you. As we look at more questions, we will answer, but that's something I wanted to share with you.
Yeah. So I think I'll start. I looked at a few questions, and so we have approximately 2 lakh students doing the exams, and if you look at the bulk of queries that come, for every query that goes in one direction, you will actually have another query that goes exactly in the opposite direction as well. So we the way we look at all of this is sum total of all queries, whether or not we are satisfying the requirement with respect to education. Uh, a lot of SPOCs and students talk about being able to learn from IIT faculty, and one of the things about IIT faculty or IIT way of doing things is also that it's not about having a question bank, it's not about having one set pattern of questions, but it's also to encourage the diversity across the 360 courses, the way the courses are run, the way the courses are handled by the faculty, and the things that the students can gain out of these courses. And that leads me into the first question that was asked, and this was: can you ask the course faculty to finalize exams and patterns at the beginning of the course? Yes, we ask faculty to standardize some things, but not necessarily to standardize the assignment and exam, or finalize the assignments and exam. Now, what's the difference between them? Let's say I'm running a course. 4 weeks into the course, I realize that I have pitched the course a little bit too high, for example, for that particular audience, or I realize that the course is pitched a little bit too easy for the audience, and several students are not gaining things out of that course. So we need a fair amount of course correction that happens. Sometimes we don't exactly know how to pitch the course unless and until we get feedback from students. So it is probably not possible for us to require that assignments and exams be determined before first 1/3 of the course, and so on and so forth. So that is one thing that I would say. The other thing that I would also say is the MCQ, MSQs, and numerical, those types of questions, and subjective type of questions. Those again represent the whole range of options and the whole range of variability. So it is quite possible that you get asked different sets and different types of questions during an assignment, but during an exam, for example, some types of questions don't get asked, or additional types of questions get asked, and that's often to do with the requirements of that course. Having said that, we have taken this feedback. We continuously work with faculty members when we see this type of things happening. We check with the faculty members, saying that these are not the type of questions you have asked, or in your assignments. Is this where you want to test? And a lot of times the faculty members say that this is the reason for testing. And most of SPOCs are also faculties, so you actually might be aware of the various levels at which course is pitched, or the assignments or assessments are pitched: recall level and implementation level, right up to the design and critique level, right? What faculty actually try to do is the level at which assignments and the course is pitched is the level at which the exam is also pitched. It need not be the same type of questions in assignments will be asked in the exams, or vice versa, but it is the level at which the course is pitched is going to be uniform in assignments and exams. So I hope that answers that part of the query. But yes, we have taken this feedback, and we will keep improving in the coming semesters as well.
Yeah, so a few points I noted down from I think the questions that were coming on the side, and I'll just quickly run through some of them. So there was one on missed assignments. Can people be given another chance? So I think this is often discussed in most of the respective course discussion fora. So as it is, we have a system by which we are only taking 2/3 of the assignment, so or something like that. So we have best 6 out of 8, or 3/4 of the assignment, so best 8 out of 12. So already there is enough room there that a student can miss 1 or 2 assignments and still satisfy all the requirements for the course. Or maybe even they try all the assignments, but maybe they don't do well in a couple of them, and still it is okay. So beyond this, it is a bit difficult for us to still accommodate, because there's a lot of effort to get assignments out, and we also want to keep it fair across all students. So same kind of assignment everybody should see. So therefore, we are at this point unable to do more in that context. There was a comment on whether students should be held accountable for plagiarism at a UG level. I'm not sure in the context of which course it was. Maybe it was Introduction to Research. I'm not very sure. But yes, I think the earlier we can get this. The issue is this: in a social context in India, many students don't know what is considered as plagiarism, and the fact that it is considered as bad as copying in an exam or getting caught copying in an exam. They just don't know. They just see something on the internet and they think, yeah, it is there, so what, I just copy and paste that here. And for personal reports, that is fine. I mean, you're making a report for your own sake, you want to read up some information, you're taking notes, so then it's of course okay, you just cut and paste something and you collect it somewhere. But professionally it is considered wrong, because now we have all these copyright issues and so on. It is considered wrong for you to make a habit of cutting and pasting from some source directly into your report and passing it off as your report. So it is very important to train our students early enough that from early on that there is a certain right way to do a report and there's a certain wrong way to do the report. And if you did the wrong way, you could have serious professional consequences. In some organizations, they'll even remove the person from work if there's a complaint that they have just copied and pasted, copied from some other existing source. So that could be anything, in journalism, where you end up publishing newspaper articles, you write for a magazine, you write in a scientific journal, you end up copying from somewhere and that gets found out, then that's a major problem. So I think it is fine to get people sensitized to it early enough. Particularly because most people think there's nothing wrong when it is considered wrong. So the earlier we can get them into that idea, get them out of that, again, high school mode where everything seems okay. High school, through school, most of the time the projects are done by parents. They are not even done by the students. So that, it seems like that. Most of the time the kind of topic given, parents end up having to do a lot of work. So we want to move away from that. We want to make them responsible as people participating in a course. So therefore, I think that's okay. There was another point on university exams clashing with NPTEL exams. Yes, we are working with all universities. We work with the UGC, with AICTE to convey our exam dates as early as possible. So all the way into 2020, late 2020, even I think 2021 maybe, I don't know, we have got...
July 2020 and Jan 2020 we have published our
exams. Jan and July 2020 we have published our dates. And we are conveying this, not just published on our site, but we are conveying it through proper official channels to all the universities that we can. And with a request from the regulatory authorities saying that don't schedule exams on those days. And we are also conducting our exams only on the weekend, which is the Saturday and Sunday. So that's the best we can do. We feel, in fact, it would be very nice if you can also help us by writing to your respective universities and alerting them to this even more. It is very likely that the main person who is involved in this process may not be sufficiently aware that many of your students are taking these courses for credit. So the more you alert them to it, that look, our own students are also going to get it for credit only. It is not even for some time pass activity, but they are actually going to learn something very useful. They're going to get credits for it for your own degree program. I think then when you keep conveying that to your regulatory authorities, there's a greater chance that they will take this into account when they set up their exam schedule. Because what happens is many times we get to know this fairly late. By the time they have already set their schedule and they are also not in a position to change it. So the earlier you can keep putting this information into your respective university systems, then supported by our letters from official agencies saying that in fact there is this date and there is this exam, so please don't schedule it to clash. So then I think it will work. So please work on it from your side. We'll also try to work on it from our side. And one other comment before I'll then search for more questions is there was a comment on translation into regional languages. Yes, we are working on it. For a fair number of courses, we are already got the translation done. We're trying to get it uploaded. That process is on. You will continue to see that steadily coming. For 8 different languages, sort of 4 in the South Indian languages and 4 what you might call North Indian languages are there in that list. So we are working on that.
Okay, I think both of you need to answer some questions which are coming in, which is based on the change of pass criteria this time, wherein on assignments and exam we have put a cutoff. Right. So there are comments coming in saying, why can't we relax the assignment cutoff or the final exam cutoff? Why do we need to have so many stringent? For programming courses, in fact, we have 3 cutoffs this time. So one on the non-proctored exam as well as assignments in that. So what do you want to answer to that?
Yeah, so let me take the easier question first. What about assignments and exams? So we have done a lot of analysis of the data based on previous semesters run, and we have seen several patterns which goes against the idea of students being able to learn. You see a lot of patterns where a bunch of students get 25 out of 25 in assignments, and the exams just somehow manage to scrape through with 15%, 16%, 20%, and so on. So we see that pattern. That pattern actually signifies that that we are not able to engage the students. We are not able to ensure that the students learn, and that was one of the reasons why we went to this particular 40% for assignments independently, 40% for exams. Before taking this decision, we actually analyzed all the data and tried to see how that data impacts various students. If, for example, 2 years back, if we had this particular criteria, then how it would impact students. That was something that we looked into. So this was not a decision that was quickly taken. This was a decision that took a couple of semesters to work out. We were trying to figure out what the impact would be, what the learnings, how it's going to affect, and that was how the decision was taken. So yes, I can understand the concerns coming from you. But from our perspective, I can definitely assure you that a lot of thought, a lot of analysis of actual data has gone into it. So that is one part of it. I think from students' perspective, you can cover.
No, I also wanted to add something here. Like I say, the purpose of even having this whole NPTEL process, to have this MOOCs and have this learning, opportunity for all of us, teaching learning opportunity, is to ensure that when students go for some interview somewhere, they are confident, well prepared, they know their subject matter to a fair degree of detail and a fair degree of confidence. So our evaluation pattern focuses on that. We are not worried about numbers. So that is something we have been telling in all our SPOC workshops, and I would continue to say so. We have huge numbers, but that is not really what our focus is. Our focus is to ensure that when you show an NPTEL certificate, both the person showing the certificate and the person seeing the certificate sees a value in it, and only then there is any meaning in it. If otherwise we are just distributing certificates and there's a whole everybody has a certificate, there is no great meaning in it, there is no great confidence from it. It becomes a waste of everybody's time. So we are very particular that any step we have in the process, any quality control we have, means something. So that is why when we looked at the assignment scores and we looked at the exam scores, and we also looked at this idea that we want the student to experience the course. It is not simply a knowledge certification process. We want the student to experience the learning process, because that itself has a lot of learning. It's not just the subject matter. We want the students to see our videos. We want them to participate in the discussion forum. We want them to experience that professional process. Because that is also an additional part of the learning over and above the subject matter, which they can take to any workplace they go, and any other organization they work in. If they become teachers, how should they teach? What should they, how should they go about in a discussion forum? If they are asked a so-called silly question in a discussion forum or in a classroom, should they humiliate the student? Should they answer it with respect? What is it that they should do? These are all things that are subtly taught when you do all these processes in the course. So we are very clear that we don't want the student to simply not see anything, based on some prior knowledge they have. They just write the examination and see if they pass. So we want them to go through the process. Therefore, assignments are important. Weekly participation is important. So there are marks for it. At the same time, we also understand that while doing the assignments, they will have peer learning. They will have from their friends. They will learn. We are not formally preventing it. We have no ways of preventing it. And we also think it is okay if they work with their friends and learn something in the process. It is fine. On the other hand, if they simply blindly copy one friend post solution and everybody else copies, clearly then the people who have copied have not learned anything. And the only way we can test that is when we test that in the final examination. So we want a substantial pass mark in the final examination to ensure that we are also satisfied that the student has indeed learned something, and that they are not getting that minimum cutoff by simply copying all the assignments from somewhere. So both of these things are important, and therefore it is necessary that we have some reasonable cutoff on both the assignments and some reasonable cutoff in the final examination, and then the total counts. And then for programming courses, we are very particular that person undergoes a programming exam of some sort. In our first editions that we actually had programming examination in the exam hall itself. We had, and to some degree we were successful in it, but we had technical difficulties which up until today we have not completely overcome. So we have not taken care of it completely. So we are not yet back to having the programming exam happen in the examination hall itself. That would be great. It would be great if students can, in the examination hall, write code for some specific problem, whatever it is, arrange numbers in descending order, whatever it is, they let them write the code for it, test it on in the examination hall, and then submit the solution. If we reach that stage, we may not need this separate online programming examination. But until such time, we will need to have one online programming examination to really capture the essence of the learning in that subject. And therefore, we are having it at this point, and we are insisting on some marks for it. And if a person doesn't do it, we say that they have not completed the process. Again, this is something that we are stating upfront, and therefore the student shouldn't feel surprised that this exam is there. And it is not therefore correct for the student to say, I didn't do it, still give me a certificate, because we feel that is not representative of the learning process. So that's the point I wanted to.
So but also just to finish off with a very small story. One student, he, while going to his hometown, met with an accident and had some injury in his spine, and had to be on bed rest for almost a year. He came back and completed his BTech degree, and a couple of years later visited me. And one of the things that is that is a lot of times you listen to those students who are not putting in a lot of effort, but they, in his words, they crib a lot, saying that, oh, this was very difficult, oh, this was very difficult. But in spite of so much problems that I have had because of the accident, I have really put in the effort in order to get where I am. So is it really fair on someone like me that so many other students who are basically not doing anything are also able to pass and get the passing marks in the courses? Of course, this is not an NPTEL course that I'm talking about. This was a course over here that I'm talking about. But when we listen to the students, we would also want to listen to the entire range of students, including the really sincere ones who, in spite of all the hardships, are able to do things on their own. The assignments they are able to do on their own. They go to the exam center and pass the exams independently of the assignments. So it needs to cut both ways as well. Yeah.
So there was a question on internships and increasing the number of internships. So we are working on that. We are working with various people whom we feel would be interested in this process. So you may, eventually it will grow. It's just a little bit, it takes its own natural time to happen. So we will work on that. I think there was also a question saying we should have courses for BSc standard. I'm not really sure I fully follow it, but what I will say is that we are going to introduce more science and arts type of courses, provide more opportunities for students to try out even larger variety of courses. Again, our focus is quality, so we are actively contacting faculty, highly qualified faculty from institutes of national importance in those respective areas. And progressively we are hoping you will see more courses. So this is very important to us that we reach the entire stream of people across the country who are interested in really having a good quality education and providing them some content appropriate for their background. So we are working on that. We will try to get you more as we go.
Yeah, quick answers to a few questions. A couple of people have asked, can you upload previous years or previous semesters exam paper? No, we would not upload them. That kind of defeats the entire purpose of this, where the purpose is learning. It's not, we go through this entire school and colleges where we have this question banks and so on, and you learn from the question banks and go and answer and crack the exams. We want to bring in a culture where it's not so much about cracking exams but about learning. So that's the reason why we would not be putting previous exam papers. There is another related questions. Can you put sample exam questions so we know what pattern of exams to expect? So yes, we have begun to ask our faculties to put that. Several faculty in several courses already put that. For most courses, I would say more than 95% of the courses, the assignments give you a very good idea of what type of questions would come in the exams as well. So students who do the assignment sincerely usually do not face surprises in the final exams. So that was another thing about exams. The other thing, again, partly exams, partly assignments, but the overall question was that textbook information should be given. So I think again most of the courses inform students about which textbook to follow, which reference material to follow. To the best of my knowledge, that's a required information for any course to go on NPTEL platform. But again, if the expectation is that things are followed from the textbook, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, that is not something that we do. We bring in our own spin to the things that are covered in the textbook based on our experience, our own research, faculty's own research, and so on. So it doesn't follow exactly, for example, the questions or the pattern that is there in the textbook. Just to give an example from my courses, the courses that I have run, I have not repeated even a single question from a textbook. All the questions that I ask in assignments and exams are questions that I formulate on my own, and several faculty actually do that. So if you say that, oh, this needs to follow a particular textbook, no, but yes, definitely having a textbook is something that is essential and helps the learning process. That's something that we require our faculty to do.
So I'll reiterate what Niket said about sample exams and assignments.
One more related question that we keep getting as feedback is students have a preference for computer-based exam versus a paper pen exam. So can you not tell us ahead whether it is going to be a paper pen exam versus that?
Okay, so that's, I think, a comment, yes, we have heard before. I think it's good that we are discussing that here. Again, I mean, to be honest, I'm a bit surprised by that question. Which surprisingly a lot of people, at least there's a community of people, there's a set of people who do ask that question. Our students came prepared for a computer based exam, you gave them a pen and paper exam. So again, I personally I find that very hard to relate to. An exam simply has some set of questions to which you provide answers. That's really all the process is. So whether I give you a paper and I ask you to write the answer with a pen, or there is a computer on which you type something or you click some few things, it is not clear to me why that makes any difference. If I ask you something that is not related to the content we discussed, then I can see you have a very fair, grouse to raise. You can fair complaint saying, you never even discussed this anywhere in the classes. Suddenly you are asking this in our exam. And so that I can understand, but the mode of the exam doesn't make any sense to me. So what if you give me pen and paper? So what if it's on a computer? I do understand the one point that some people made, that they are coming from a rural background and maybe they cannot write a paragraph in English comfortably. That we may have to address somewhat differently, and I do understand that concern. I mean, I'm not saying that that's not a concern. We cannot wish it away. We cannot imagine that it is not there. I understand that concern and we should address it. We are also telling our faculty to, as much as possible, be very clear ahead of time whether paragraph type answers are required, or it's going to be a more something that you can straight away do with the computer. So I understand that, but beyond that, I mean, I don't know, don't take it as a prestige issue or something that pen and paper was given to you. It's an exam, so please try to do it. We do write exams of different kinds, so we have to just deal with that. So I think that's the point I wanted to make. I also wanted to say that for the sample exam and assignments and whatnot, see, I do understand that students want to successfully clear a course. Definitely they have put in some effort, they want to clear the course, they want to see the satisfaction of having a certificate, no doubt about it. But as Niket was also pointing out, if a student has reasonably gone through the process, okay, and a student interested in that subject has reasonably gone through the process, which means they sincerely attended those, looked at those lecture content, and sincerely, did the assignments. Even if they took help, they try to understand what the solution was rather than simply say, my friend told me 1A, 3B, 4C, and I have also put 1A, 3B, 4C. I got the marks. So as long as you don't do that, but you actually understand why 1 is A and 2 is B or whatever it is, only if you understand that and you want to go through the process sincerely, I think any reasonable student will do well in the course. So, or has a very high chance of doing well in the course. I also want you to understand and appreciate that by and large, nobody is being forced to take the course. So they are taking out of their own interest. I do also recognize that now with credit transfer possible, maybe there is a little greater push for them, for a student to take a course. Even then, generally, most colleges and universities are allowing their students to take from a range of courses. So there are a bunch of courses out there. They can pick one that they like. We put an intro video there. Some of these courses are reruns, so even the old content is available on our site. You can even check whether that content is the way you want it. So a lot of options are there, which generally means that a reasonably interested student putting in a reasonable amount of effort can do quite well and complete the course successfully. So once that is taken care of, we don't see the need to hold up the student giving one old question paper, question bank, this, that, and whatnot to somehow get the person to beat the system and solve the thing. Because we are providing a different system, so that is something that we would like you to convey to your students as well.
There was one question about certification diploma. When students take 4 or 5 related courses, can we give them a diploma? So this is something that we have very recently introduced. It's called domain certification. That is in works, and we are going to roll out over the next few months' time. So yes, that is something that is coming up. For example, if you take several related courses in data sciences, there would be certain core courses that you must take. In addition to that, there will be certain number of electives. So there would be a basket of 5 or 6 courses that you need to complete, and once you complete that in a stipulated amount of time, when a student completes that in a stipulated amount of time, he or she gets domain certified by NPTEL. So that is in works. We've already had one student who got domain certification, and that would be rolled out in a more wider manner very soon, in the next few months' time. The other question was about self-study courses. On the platform, we don't really support self-study courses, and that's basically based on the student engagement with the platform that we have seen. However, students who are interested in self-study courses can always go to nptel.ac.in/courses, and they can experience the courses in the self-study mode. nptel.ac.in/courses is basically the course repository. We are trying to bring in a few more enhancements so that a few more interactive things can be done. But in self-study mode, you do not have this particular, for lack of better word, this pressure of having to do your assignments weekly, which creates your student engagement. You don't have peer groups from which you can discuss. You don't have discussion forums that are live and active, at least not in the form that NPTEL runs. So that's why on the forum, on swayam.gov.in, we do not have self-study courses, but you can do that in an offline mode in nptel.ac.in/courses.
So I will also add that many learning experiences are there. Even online, if you go, you have Coursera, edX, and other such options. They are all offering different, for lack of a better word, different package to the students. And we distinguish ourselves from them in that we are able to certify students in a very rigorous manner. They are using methods that we don't quite agree with, and therefore we don't see any great value in simply following that system. We have applied a lot of thought to all the processes that we have, and this is presently where we are. And yes, as Niket said about domain certification, we are coming up with that. Domain certification is very much in the works, so it's like a small package of students, a small package of courses, which if a student completes, then they can become something like an expert in that area. and they will more confidently be able to present themselves to an interview panel somewhere. This is, we feel, very important because it is nice for students to try various courses, and as they start finding something that they are interested in, we are showing them that, if you do this package, it is even more useful to you. So if you already have done 2 of those courses, you can do 2, 3 more, and then that entire package is very useful for you to present in a professional sense, and you will also get a lot of confidence from that. So okay, there's a question here. Why not think of giving the final exam and answers like the assignments? So I'll tell you a practical difficulty here. So unlike entrance examinations, so let's say you have a JEE or a GATE exam. So you have, I don't know, dozens of faculty working together to generate one question paper, which lakhs of students are writing. So there's a lot of individual questions, a lot of imagination used, and etc. to create a question paper like that and released. And typically those entrance exam question papers span a range of topics, wide range of topics. In each topic there's an expert, and that expert is providing 1 or 2 questions, and that is what forms the question paper. So that is a different setup. Here we have a different setup. Here we have very specific focused topics. So each chapter, each subject, if there are 10 subjects in a single entrance examination question paper, here we have 1 question paper for each of those 10 subjects. So that is very specialized. And as Niket was pointing out, we don't just straight pull out questions from a textbook or some question bank and put it. A lot of thought goes into creating each of those questions. And we don't see it being very productive simply putting out these questions out there for everybody to create a question bank. It becomes much more difficult to think up of interesting new questions on the same topic, because it's a narrow topic. So therefore there are certain constraints there on how this can be done, and therefore at the moment we are doing this in the current manner. You have to also understand that all the faculty who are offering you these courses online are doing their complete semester load at their respective institutes, working with their students, running their own courses inside the institute, and doing this over and above that. And so their time is like really, exhausted. They are really out of time. We are asking them for providing extra time to do this activity, which they do. And therefore, we would like to do it in a reasonable way without putting, undue load on them, where, every semester it is an impossible task for them. So we don't want to do that. Balancing all that, this is where we are at the moment.
Yeah, so I think the scale of operation is where one of the things that also perhaps restricts some of the things that we can potentially do. The other thing is, for example, the question that was asked is, you can provide a login and password so that only that particular student would be able to see. But we know fairly well that once that facility is provided, that question, for example, in my course, I will not be able to use that or a closely related question ever anymore. And there is only a limited number of questions, a large but still a limited number of questions that I can come up with year after year for a particular course that I'm teaching. So that is one point. And the second point that I want to say, and for that I will also pick up another question that was asked, and that is, what is the reason that NPTEL has not made assignments optional? And why I'm saying this is related is because I don't think majority of learning happens with exams. Majority of learning, at least in my views, happens because of assignments. The majority of learning happens because week after week, I'm going onto the portal, looking at the videos, and then right then solving the assignment questions that are given to me. So that reinforces the learning that has happened. So it's not about reading, it is not about listening, it is not about taking notes down, but it also that reinforcement component that comes in. And having those assignments over there really is the reinforcement component. So in my view, as an educator, that particular student doing the assignments, doing very well in the assignments, that's really where the learning happens. Exam is not where the learning happens. Exam is just where we benchmark how much learning has happened. So we really want you guys to think about, especially because a lot of you are in education, is basically take that focus away from the exam towards the learning, and that's when you will understand a whole lot of decision making process behind what is happening at NPTEL.
So I would also add about this examination process. I think maybe sometimes.
So one question has come now that we have a cutoff on assignments. Can you allow us to see where we stand and then let us register?
But they already know that.
No, it might be too late because we close it after 3 weeks into the course, right? So maybe you want to explain the logistics.
So we have some logistical constraints on the comment I guess you must have heard is that people want to know that they have got the 40% in the assignments before they do the exam registration. But this is a problem logistically because as you know, the number of students writing NPTEL exams is now more than 2 lakhs. More than 200,000 students are writing NPTEL exams across the country. And and as you know, we are all doing online exams, paper and pen exams. So there's a huge amount of logistics to enable 200,000 students to write exams in 350 plus courses in a systematic way without errors, accounting for all exigencies and so on, so that it goes off smoothly. One of the big activities in that process is that we work with our exam partner to enable students to get centers reasonably close to where they are. So there's they are exam partners who are being used by a very large number of agencies across the country. So they will also have exam requests from various other examinations that are running across the country. They have some finite number of centers. So the sooner we work with them and give them our list of students saying that these many students will write in Hyderabad, these many students will write in Lucknow, these many students will write in Mumbai. If we give those numbers ahead of time only, they are in a position to give us the centers also according to that number of students at those locations. So there is some optimum that we have to work with there. See, many of the entrance examinations are scheduled more than a year in advance, and they are using cutoff dates for their application process 6-8 months before the examination. So 6 months before the examination, they know exactly how many students are going to write the exam in which city and so on. So they can plan their activities with the exam partner in a very systematic way. They have plenty of time for it. For us, 6 months is too much time. I mean, we are not even starting the semester in 6 months ahead of the exam. We are starting the semester only 4 months ahead of the exam. And we are 1 month into that, about 3 weeks to a month into that before we actually ask you to do the registration. So we actually have a very small window, extremely small window to get all our data in which is a very large number. If we were only dealing with 1,000 students, it's not a problem. We can do it literally up to the week before the examination, we can do all these things. With 200,000 students, we cannot do that. With 200,000 students, we need to get that information to the exam partner as early as possible so that they can also work on the logistics. And please understand, there's a lot of back and forth on this because they will come back with us to us with a list of their first set of centers, where those centers are, how many those students are going to be there in various places. Then we also we would have got feedback from various SPOCs from the past saying that they have problems in some center, they have some other issue going to some other center, so on. Then we have to work again with the exam partner saying, okay, you have given us 100 centers, we are okay with 90 of them, 10 of them are not acceptable, give us 10 other centers. So there's a lot of activity that goes on behind the scenes, which is not quite visible from the time that registration form closes and suddenly the hall tickets are out. There's a very significant amount of work that goes on. I mean, huge number of hours are spent in the office. In fact, even in this room where people sit and work, even earlier today there were people working here specifically for this activity. So we don't have much more room there. We have to close on a certain date, and whatever that means, that means. I mean, so students have to by that time at least get a sense that they are comfortable with the course and the level of content and the level of assignments. And please remember, we are asking only 40%. I mean, in almost any examination, you go 35 to 40 is the pass mark. So you're just looking at bare minimum pass mark condition. When most of the time a student who is interested in the subject and is doing well could easily be aiming for an elite kind of certificate or a gold medal kind of certificate, which is much higher performance. So the pass mark, we cannot really decide so much based on the pass mark. We have to look at the overall health of the system, and therefore we do it the way we do it.
There was one more comment, and I think I would address that. The exam registration form this semester was mismanaged. So let me give you the background behind it. Basically, there was certain technical problem with the exam form. There were certain risks that were involved, and that's why we had to pull down the exam form. We work with our coding team over here and coding partners elsewhere also, and they were pretty much working round the clock. They did not even take the weekends off in order to get back the exam form, the registration form as soon as possible. I know I can recognize that this is not an answer that you would like to hear, but yes, I mean we try our level best, but there are things that happen, and this was one of the things. There was a technical issue, and we had to bring the form down, and there we really had no option. So again, I sincerely apologize for that. But I think the form was also available a few days after it went back online. So hopefully, I hope that not too many people were affected too negatively because of that. But please accept my sincere apologies. We really could not have done anything other than what happened. Going forward, we will try to have as much of an uptime as possible. But yes, please pardon us for this.
Yeah, I'll add to what Niket said. See, one of the things that we would like you to, recognize perhaps is that at some level we are treading new ground, we are treading new territory, and also the electronic world, the way it is also treading new ground and treading new territory. So, various new issues crop up which were not seen earlier, or at least we end up seeing it at that point in time, and we have to respond. And again, like I say, we have to look at the overall health of the system. It was significantly more damaging if we had just left the previous form on and just allowed something wrong to happen. So it was a lot of thought was applied, and then the best option out was to stop that form, recreate a new form, and then bring it back up. And that was absolutely the only thing we could do under those circumstances. And so we went ahead and did that. We appreciate the patience that you have shown. We understand the frustrations you must have experienced, but it was necessary, so it was done. So.
Yeah. A few more.
One comment that is common is if NPTEL keeps upping its criteria, we may not be able to penetrate to the rural regions as expected.
So I will add to a comment that I made earlier. See, when we say we are upping the criteria, we are still looking at a pass mark. Please understand that. So at some level, I don't know. I don't want to sound harsh, but it is true that at some level, we want the student to pass. We want the student to actually learn enough to at least pass the course. So we are not really saying that we are not suddenly started saying that you have to get at least 60% to get a certificate from us. No. It is only the 40% mark, and that too, all we have said now is that it's not enough if you get 40% overall, you should get 40% in the assignment as well as 40% in the final exam. So in a sense, we have not really even changed the criteria. We have simply said we are applying it more uniformly across the course. That's all we have said. So it is not a dramatic change in criteria. But we do want somebody to have learned something. There's no, like I say, there is no real point in just like that giving certificates. There's no value in the certificate. That is just a paper. At the end of the day, we all can print papers. So that is not the point. So that is an issue. I understand rural penetration may take longer. We are not trying to delay it in any sense, but we want that to happen with quality in mind. So that there is no compromise on that. Any step that we have in our process, at the root, you will find that it is only about quality, and we want to ensure that. We will try to assist the rural students in multiple ways. We will try to make some, we will get our faculty. We already have many courses which are even more elementary, so to speak, and we will encourage faculty to have much more elementary versions of their courses, so that rural student can perhaps first try that, and then gain some confidence, and then try the more significant course that they would like to do. So maybe there are other ways of handling this, rather than simply lowering the pass mark. So that is what I would like you to consider.
Okay. And again, an important decision like this was taken after a lot of analysis of past semesters data, which also means going forward, we will keep analyzing the data to see what the impact of this decision was. We also don't want this decision to negatively impact the learning that is happening from students. But again, if this decision impacts, people who were really not putting in a whole lot of time and really were, for example, copying assignments and somehow scraping by, and those students are not getting certificates, we are absolutely not going to, make the criteria easier than what it is. But again, if we actually find that a whole lot of students who are sincere, who are struggling, who are attempting, those miss out. And again, this cannot be even one person misses out or even one person gains. It has to be looking at the entire 2 lakh exam taking population. We will keep, revisiting that. But that's not, I mean, if you kind of feel that we are going to increase the passing criteria semester after semester, making it more and more difficult to students to scrape through, no, that is definitely not our intention. So that's not something that we want to do at all.
So I mean, again, adding to what Niket said, whatever changes we are making, we are also really looking at the data from the previous semester and then looking at what that data suggests to us, and on that basis only we make the change. So and that happens only as we gather a lot more data. So with the numbers going up, when we have well over a lakh taking our exams semester after semester, then we have enough data to actually say what is happening. So are we seeing students who are actually getting good marks in assignment but basically getting almost nothing in the final examination and still getting a certificate? And then we see that that's a reasonable number, and then we want to see what does that imply. That implies that at least some number of students feel that okay, let's just get the assignment any which way through somebody posting the solutions or whatever it is, and then we'll do some base minimum in the exam hall, and with that we'll get a NPTEL certificate. No, that is a message we don't want. We don't want that kind of a message and that kind of a feeling out there. We want the student to feel okay, whatever is there, we have to prepare something, we have to really learn some fair bit of material, then we will definitely get a certificate. If we don't do it, then definitely we will not get a certificate. So that's the message we are more comfortable in them having. We want a student who has not prepared to know that because they have not prepared, they are most likely not going to get a certificate. We don't want that student to feel, hey, I didn't prepare anything, no problem, I'll still get a certificate. That's not the message we want. So we are okay. And as I said, we are looking at data very carefully and only then making this change. So in fact, the last time itself when we were using the older criteria, we conveyed to all the SPOCs that we are going to change the criteria, and for your existing set of certificates, if we had retroactively applied that criteria, these are the number of people who would have passed and these are the number of people who would have failed. So it was evident even from last semester's data, if we had just applied the current criteria on the last semester, more number of people would have failed. And we conveyed that to the SPOCs primarily to alert them to it, to sensitize them to it that look, this is happening. We are looking at the data and only then making this change, and it is not an unreasonable change. And therefore, we would like to go ahead and do that. So that's basically what we have done.
A few other suggestions that had come. One of the suggestions was, can you please ask faculty to avoid hour-long videos? Yes, that is something that goes as a set of suggestions to the faculty. When the faculty comes back and says that these are the reasons for which I have hour-long videos, and the reasons might be one of the two. One is because it was kind of an older course, and then the amount of effort that is required to convert that into shorter lectures is significantly large. That is one, but that is a smaller number. But a lot of times faculty come and tell us that for such and such reasons I require that because of derivations and so on and so forth, which go on for a much longer period of time. That's why. But this is something that we do ask faculty to avoid extremely long videos. We ask them to cut into, for example, 15-minute pieces and so on. The other suggestion was, can PPT or PDF materials be provided? For several courses, PDF materials, reading materials are provided. For some courses, it's not provided. So again, it depends on course to course. We probably won't be able to get 100% compliance with respect to you should have PDF material provided and so on. But again, this is something that we inform that this is something that students find valuable. And the third comment was, can we have only one assignment per week? Again, that depends on course to course, whether there would be one assignment per week or there would be multiple assignments per week, depends on that particular course's requirements. So yeah, but for the most part, I think most of the courses, they have one assignment per week. The exception is programming courses, where again the reason for programming courses having say 3 programming assignments are really, you would really want to think them as 3 programming problems forming one assignment. That's how you may want to think about it. But otherwise, non-programming courses we mostly have one assignment per week. But again, there would be maybe 5% of courses which do not follow that, and most often they have specific reasons why they have deviated from it.
Okay, one feedback again, multiple sources that we got was transcripts were not provided in time, hence it was a problem for students to prepare and appear for the final exams. But one thing which we keep saying is students are supposed to watch videos and take down their own notes. The transcripts are an aid for something else, it can't be the primary source. Any
Yeah. So we would like to reiterate that we are doing an online course for any subject. We want to recreate as much of the classroom experience as possible, and simply looking at the transcript is not going to be sufficient in creating that in recreating that experience. So we do want the students to look at the videos. Because it is not simply the transcript cannot convey certain things. The way we emphasize something, the way we emphasize a particular point in a derivation will often not come across that clearly when you just look at the transcript. So again, I request you to encourage your students to consider the learning process, because these are all some fundamental things. When they learn something well, it stays with them for a very long time, and that will really assist them in any professional setting. So keep encouraging them to see the videos and watch the videos and learn from that. The transcript otherwise is not as effective. You will not gain as much knowledge simply just looking at the transcript, or at least you will miss certain finer aspects. Definitely you will miss some finer aspects if you simply look at the transcripts. And also about these long videos, and maybe that is why they look at the transcripts, or they seek to look at the transcripts. I would like to add that that is one of the advantages of the online medium. You can always pause the video whenever you want. So you don't have to worry about the teacher having to give you 10-minute videos. It is not necessary. You can pause the video at any point that you like and continue later on. So that is not an issue. So although we do ask the faculty to give you smaller sized videos so that you can watch them and then feel that you've completed watching a video. It is not the biggest point. If you were in a real class, for example, you're sitting in a class in your college and a class is going on, you are sitting through say 50-minute class, and you may lose attention after say 15 minutes. Somehow you get tired and you start thinking of something else. Then suddenly after 5 minutes you again concentrate. So in the meantime you lost 5 minutes of whatever the discussion was. Here that is not the case. I mean, as you're watching the video, as you watch that 15 minutes down the line, you suddenly realize that you're no longer paying attention. Then you can rewind a little bit and continue. So I myself watch several of the NPTEL videos in other courses which I find some interest in. Then I do this. I certainly stop, pause, rewind a little bit and watch if I'm interested in learning that material, which basically means that 1 hour of video takes me a lot more than 1 hour to actually watch. And that is what we are expecting as an investment of time from the student side to do the learning process. And when you do that, you really learn much better. In fact, that 1 hour of video watching, you will learn much more than if you were sitting in the same class for the same 1 hour, because you cannot make up for those drops in attention, which you can do here. So please go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and again, just to add to that point, the one hour of video is 1 hour of edited video. So in some of the courses, 1 hour of video might represent actually 1 hour of material, but sometimes 1 hour of video might actually represent 1.5 hours of video also of material also. So it really depends on course to course as well. So we really want to encourage people to watch the videos and learn from the videos to give the actual classroom learning experience in an online manner. I think next question, one of the questions was, why do we want to do plagiarism checks? Isn't plagiarism checks more for example, for original research? So yeah, we have chosen to call it plagiarism, but if you want to call it that, it's copying. What we have seen so many students literally, I mean, you will see one assignment submission, another assignment submission of another student, and they're literally carbon copies of each other. It's really almost that, and that's something that's to be strongly discouraged. And it absolutely does not help learning, but it also gives a very negative impression of our country as well. But again, more from utilitarian point of view, it goes exactly against the idea of students learning and students getting educated, and that's something that that's the reason why the plagiarism is something that we really don't want to encourage even in courses. So at no point of time copying we should give an impression to students that copying is acceptable.
Yeah, I wanted to add something about the exam process. I think sometimes questions come after the course is completed, and even now there was some question on, can you release the solutions? Can I check something? This, that, whatnot. So in that context, I also wanted to add this detail that, just to help you feel comfortable with what we are doing this end of the process. Once your answers come, we are doing a statistical check also on the solutions, so that if we are using some statistical processes to further cross check our evaluation process before we release the scores to you. So in addition to simply correcting the answer paper, so to speak, additional checks are in place to which we have formally looked at and we have incorporated to help ensure that the scores that you get are indeed valid scores for you. So all that is being done back end, and all those thought processes, all the procedural aspects to do all that is also incorporated on our side. So that's something I wanted to share with you, so that you can feel more comfortable that when you see a score, it's a dependable score. So.
Right. And again, I mean, I can actually give you an example. So from my own course, when it comes to assignments, let's say the answer is pi, right? 3.1415. I would give a very narrow range, for example, 3.141 to 3.142. Why? Because I expect students to really not be under time pressure, and therefore would want to make sure that they are learning in the right way. But when the same question I have asked in an exam, I actually give a much larger tolerance value. So therefore, if you have calculated in one way, you have calculated in another way, very likely in a assignment, way number 2 may have not been given marks, but an exam way number 2 is also given marks. And then second thing is we do a statistical analysis. For example, if too many students are getting a particular question wrong, the faculty actually goes and looks at the actual answers by all the students and sees that, yeah, we could make mistakes, and we want to make sure that we have those checks and balances in place to catch those. So yes, so there are fairly detailed steps that we go through in order to ensure that.
Okay, there's a question I'm posing. You want to actually ask them that? Because some have been repeatedly writing in some courses. So why not we get a contribution from faculty who are in courses, who know the subject, who answer forum questions. If they say questions in the forum are not being answered, if somebody else knows it, why don't they contribute? Because it's a give back to the NPTEL system. NPTEL is like a system for all, right?
Exactly. So in fact, I will take this question and broaden it up a little bit. We have had a lot of students, Indian students, as well as foreign students who have experienced NPTEL courses, Coursera courses, edX courses, and the assignments, the very formal nature in which a course is run, the proctored exams, and you guys, the local chapters and SPOCs, are considered to be 4 major pillars of NPTEL. One of the things that we is something that we lack, if I can use that word, is the course forums are not used by students as well on NPTEL courses as they are on the other courses, and that's something that we really want to encourage. We want students to use the discussion forums. don't post the solutions before the assignment is complete, but once the assignment is complete, you have done well, you have answered all the questions. Why not make your solution, scan it and upload it? You can upload it on Google Drive, make it shareable and put the link for the fellow students to see. Five different students will have five different ways of solving that same problem. I myself have learned from students in my MATLAB course when the student has asked, isn't this an alternative way to solve? I'm like, yes, this is an alternative way. I hadn't thought about it, but thanks for sharing. So that is where we learn as a group. Most of the learnings happens as a peer learning. So when students start doing that, when faculty who are enrolled in courses start doing that, it can only enrich the NPTEL offerings. So you are one of the most important cogs in the wheel, and please feel encouraged to do this. But please don't post solutions before the assignment is closed.
Yeah. I think
So in the translation, did you give them details on that 1,000 hours that we have and on feedback? And
yeah, so there is we have a fairly elaborate translation process that is on, and there is at least one course which we have in almost all the 8 languages out in translated form, which is this Introduction to Research course, which is being taken by students across the country because it is a common use course of that nature. So there are translations available in 8 Indian languages, and there's a feedback form that is available. It is available, the translation is available both as a subtitle on one side, and it's available as scrolling text on the SWAYAM site. So we request you to look at it and see how useful you find it. Please open any one of those lectures and see the scrolling text and see this text in these 8 different languages, whichever language you're comfortable in. And please give us your feedback on what you like about it or what you find difficult about it. There is a form available. We would really appreciate it. We are collecting some data to see because we are putting in an effort in that direction, and many courses are out for translation right now. So you may see progressively larger number of courses available in 8 different languages. A lot of effort has gone in this direction because getting the technical content translated is not so easy. So we have been working very hard on it. We would really appreciate feedback because that helps us direct our efforts in some kind of a focused manner. Particularly, subtitle versus scrolling text, which is better, which is more convenient for you. We see certain values, but we don't know, the user may have a different set of values. So please look at it, give us some feedback. Even if you're not taking the course, please see 1 hour of that video if you can, and look at the translation and give us some feedback. So we would really find that useful.
So there's one Spock who has written, the basic purpose of NPTEL is to know about new technologies, and faculty should improve the teaching skills by sharing the knowledge acquired. This will develop employability skills in our students. After 20 years of teaching, I did 3 core courses. After becoming SPOC, secured 80%. College does not acknowledge or encourage student and faculty. Can AICT send a letter to each private college before giving approval and ask number of certified faculty, fix the number? I pay exam fees, I take leave to appear for the exam, but nobody shows interest. How do we deal with this?
So we will certainly take this feedback. We are always working with AICT, and AICT has also been very positive about this. They are all part of the SWAYAM project, and already in the AICT approved colleges, there is a way in which the NPTEL courses can be taken for FDP points. So if there are specific instances where you're seeing significant deviation from that or no appreciation for it, kindly do alert us. Please send us an email. We will try our best to do what we can on this side of the activity to get AICT to speak to your college and sensitize them about it. It is quite likely that some administrators in the college may not be aware of the possibilities here, because once they are aware, we generally found across the board people finding it as a very positive thing to do and not something that they are being pushed to do. So it is very likely that that's all the cases. So please send us specific emails. We will definitely work on it.
Yeah, I think we are good to go.
So I think that's about all we had to share with you. We are very happy that you could join us and ask us many questions. We will make this, with some periodicity, we can repeat this process as the queries raise. I believe we are going to have one more session that will be later.
For the students.
That will be aimed at the students, primarily at the students, so they are free to ask us questions. Naturally, it's going to be a larger crowd, is our expectation, possibly, because a wider number of people can participate in it. And we will try to address their concerns and questions and look at their suggestions. So we will do that. So again, I thank you for joining us today. That's all I have to add.
Yeah. Again, thanks from my side as well for joining, and I can say that for the rest of the team at NPTEL as well. And again, just want to impress upon you that SPOCs are one of our most important cogs in the wheel. So I really thank you for your effort. I can assure you that all your comments are taken seriously. Does not necessarily mean that we will have to agree with or with all that you say, or we have to implement every suggestion that you give. But by that, what I mean is every comment, we look at it, we think about it, we look at the data, and then act on those comments. So again, I really sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, really thank you for participating in this, as well as participating in this NPTEL initiative. Thanks a lot.